All right, guys, so here I am. I'm going to go through the first half of the 3.1 homework, okay? The first part of the 3.1 homework, okay? Now, the first part of your homework is that you should fill out this little cheat sheet, this little guide here on the different subatomic particles in the atom, okay? So, for example, the electron, what is the symbol for an electron? It is E with a little minus there. A proton is a P with a little plus. A neutron is an N with a little zero. Basically, go through the notes and fill out the rest of this chart right here, okay? You can find all of this in the notes. Lastly, you're going to want to answer these two questions right here. So now on to the majority of the problems on the homework, which were practiced with atomic number, mass, and charge, okay? So let's get to it. Let's start with this first problem right here, okay? Answer the following question regarding the number of protons in the atom, and we'll just remember an important fact here, which is the atomic number, which is the number on the periodic table, is equal to the number of protons. So something that we're going to want to have available to help us with this is we are going to want to have a periodic table ready to go right here to help us out, okay? So I'll just be flipping back and forth between the worksheet and the periodic table. Okay, so here we go. First question is this. How many protons does a chlorine atom have? Chlorine is element Cl. So let me just go look for Cl on the periodic table. And here it is, all right, over on the right. Chlorine is element 17. And that means that chlorine, I'll close this out. All right, don't save, I don't care. Chlorine has 17 protons, okay? Next up, how many protons does a silver atom have? Now, silver is element Ag, argentium, okay? Ag, Ag, Ag. Eventually, you'll find it here. It's element 47, okay? And that means that silver has 47 protons, all right? This one's going to be a little bit easier. An atom with 64 protons would be what element? So we just go to the periodic table and look for element number 64. 1, 2, yada, yada, go across until we get to 24, which is chromium. So that would be chromium is the atom that has 24 protons. Which element contains atoms with 64 protons? Okay, I'm going to go here. I'm going to try and find 64. Oh, I got to go down here. That was gadolinium. All right, this is a rare one. You are like never, ever in your life going to encounter this. Gadolinium. Gadolinium. Gadolinium, okay? Why? Because that's element number 64 on the periodic table. All right, a star generates power by smashing 4 protons together. What element would that form? So let's take a look at the periodic table. Which element has 4 protons? 2, 3. Element number 4, beryllium. Beryllium. All right, great. Great, great, great. Ooh, here's one. Here's a tougher one. An unstable plutonium atom tears off 4 protons. What does it become? Okay, so let me go take a look. Let me find plutonium. Plutonium. Ah, here it is. Element number 94. If it tears off 4 protons, it goes down by 4. It becomes element 90, which is thorium. Okay, now, if you're confused at this point, guys, we have different homework worksheets. I'm not doing your homework. I'm just doing very similar problems here, okay? On to the next set. Answer the following questions regarding the number of neutrons in the atom and its mass number. So probably it's important to write down that the mass number is equal to the protons of an atom plus its neutrons, okay? We don't care about its electrons because its electrons are so tiny, they basically have no mass. Okay, so here we go. Number 10. What is the mass number of an atom with 13 protons and 18 neutrons? Don't overthink this, folks. The mass is just the protons plus the neutrons. So 13 plus 18 is equal to 31. All right, 31 AMU. Next one, an atom with 6 protons and 7 neutrons has what mass number? Don't overthink it, folks. The mass is equal to the protons plus the neutrons. 6 plus 7 equals 13 AMU. Okay, great. What is the mass of a neon atom with 22 neutrons? Well, once again, we know that the mass, all right, we know that the mass equals the protons plus the neutrons. We know the neutrons are 22, but we don't know the number of protons, or do we? Because we know that it is neon. We know that it's neon. And if we look at the periodic table, we see that neon is element 10. Neon is element 10, which means it has 10 protons. Okay, so that means that what is the mass here? It's going to be 10 protons, because that's how many protons neon has, plus 22 neutrons is equal to 32 AMU. Another one. An oxygen atom has a mass of 19 AMU. How many neutrons does it have? Now this one's tricky. Okay? This one's tricky. In fact, let me press enter here and give myself a bit more space to talk about this one, okay? Bam 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 bam. Okay. So the mass number of an atom equals the protons plus the neutrons. Okay? We know that the mass is 19, so we can plug in for the mass. All right? How many protons does it have? Well, it's an oxygen, so we can look up and see. Oxygen is element 8. It has 8 protons. So we have 8 protons. Oopsie. 8 protons. How many neutrons? All right? 8 plus what equals 19? Well, a little bit of subtraction. A little bit of subtraction here. And we get that the number of neutrons is 11. There are 11 neutrons. Great. If a nickel atom has a mass of 64 AMU, how many neutrons does it have? Same deal. All right, the mass number equals the protons plus the neutrons. The mass we know is 64. And we don't know the protons, but we know it's nickel. We know it's nickel. And so we're going to go to the periodic table and we'll look. Nickel is element 28. Nickel is element 28. So we know it's got 28 protons. How many neutrons does it have? 28 plus what is 64? Well, I'm going to subtract 28 from both sides. And I believe, unless I'm crazy, that that's 36 neutrons. Okay? So you end up with the number of neutrons equals 36, or 36 neutrons. Okay? Very good. So that's how you solve those ones. Very good. Now on to the last set of problems, which are the charge problems. Now, there's an official formula to figure out the charge, okay? Charge equals the number of protons minus the number of electrons. And some people are just going to prefer that way of representing it. Okay, charge equals protons minus electrons. Me, I think of it slightly differently. I ask myself, what do I have more of, protons or electrons? If I have more protons, I'm positive. All right. And not only that, the number of more protons that I have is how positive I am. All right. Whereas if I have more electrons, then I'm negative. However many more electrons I have than protons, that is how negative I am. So let's take a look at number 16. What is the charge of an atom with 12 protons and 11 electrons? Well, you could do 12 minus 11 to get the charge, and the charge is 1. So you could say the charge is positive 1, 1 plus, or in this case, you could just say it's a positive charge. What's the charge of an atom with 18 protons and 14 electrons? Well, what does it have more of? Does it have more protons or does it have more electrons? It has more protons, so it's going to be positive. How many more protons does it have than electrons? 18 protons and 14 electrons. It has 4 more protons, so it's going to be positive 4. Okay, positive 4. What is the charge of a barium atom with 56 electrons? Well, talking about barium, so I'm going to go look up barium on the periodic table. Okay, barium, Ba, is element 56 right here. 56. Okay, so this atom has 56 protons and 56 electrons. What does it have more of? Neither. They're equal, which means that the charges cancel. If protons equal electrons, there's no charge, right? If these guys were the same, then taking the same number and subtracting itself, you get 0, okay? If a silicon atom has a 4 minus charge, how many electrons does it have? Okay, this is kind of tricky. Silicon, let's go look at silicon first. Silicon, Si, is element 14. Silicon is element 14. So this guy has 14 protons. Now I want you to think about this. Okay? I want you to think about this. There's 2 ways to solve this problem. Okay? There's 2 ways to solve this problem. Okay? First of all, you can just use this equation up here. All right? Charge equals protons minus electrons. All right, you know that the charge is 4 minus, all right? And you know it's got 14 protons. So 14 minus the number of electrons gets us the number of protons. Okay, so what can I do here? Well, I can subtract 14 from both sides, and I get that negative 18 is equal to negative the number of electrons, so there's 18 electrons. That's one way to do it using this equation. All right, there's another way to do it though, and it's the way that I prefer. And I'm like, okay, the charge, is it positive or negative? It's negative. All right, it's a negative charge, so you're going to have more electrons. All right, more electrons. All right, and it's minus 4, which means you have 4 more electrons than protons. So what you know is you've got 4 more electrons than you have protons. If you've got 14 protons, then 4 more than that is 18 electrons. Okay, that's how you solve number 19. A magnesium atom with a 2 plus charge has how many electrons? Well, it's magnesium. I'm going to go look it up. Magnesium is element 12. Element 12. So this guy has 12 protons, all right? 12 protons. Now, here we go. Let's do it my way, and then we can do it the other way if you want. All right? So, 12 protons. It has a plus 2 charge. So, positive 2 charge. What does it have more of? Does it have more protons? Or does it have more electrons? It's positive, so it has more protons. All right? How many more protons does it have than electrons? It has 2 more protons. Okay? So it's got 2 more protons than it has electrons. If it's got 12 protons, that means that 12 is 2 more than 10. It has 10 electrons. And you can check your answer by comparing, all right? If you have an atom with 12 protons and 10 electrons, I asked you, what does it have more of? It has more protons. How many more protons does it have? It has 2 more, so that's a positive 2 charge. Okay, and that's how you do the first part of the homework, y'all.